Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. I'm your host, Lasheena Williams, and so excited to be back here with you all talking about this month's topic on building stronger nonprofit networks. So today we have very special guest, Dr. Angela White-Jones, back with us, and we're going to dive into this topic. So hello, hello, good morning.
Good morning, Lasheena. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for coming back on, especially on this topic of building stronger nonprofit networks. Because we know that is the heartbeat of nonprofit is our partnerships and building a good relationship within the community. So I'm excited about the insights you'll be able to provide in this topic.
Yes, it's a good topic.
Yeah. So before we get started, for those who have not got to meet you yet, do you mind just talking a little bit about your journey into the nonprofit space, and where you are today?
Sure. My career in nonprofit or working with nonprofits has spanned now, I think I was counting the other day, about 20 years.
Wow.
It has been a long time and it has gone quickly, actually. But
Hmm.
I had started off really being intern in the entry level work, unpaid, volunteer, all the way to really my focus has been in grants, contract management, and government affairs as it relates to nonprofit subjects. And now I'm currently the director of the Masters of Nonprofit program, graduate programs at the University of Central Florida, and a full time faculty member there as well, teaching in our nonprofit programs. So I have really, I think, functioned in just about every single type of area, events, major donors, capital campaigns. Of course, grants are my specialty. But honestly, when you're in nonprofit, and I think anyone here who's watching with a nonprofit
Hmm.
knows, you usually, if you're in there long enough in this industry, you are doing everything. You are having a
Hmm.
touch point for every single part of the process. So there isn't anything that I have not done or seen really in the nonprofit world. So it's a pleasure to still be doing this a couple decades later.
Yeah. Okay, so and before we dive into today's topic, so being in the fundraising side, and I know a lot of your work is in the grant side, is there one over the other or a reason why you gravitated to one over the other
Like as far as just like subjects, like between grants
yes,
or not,
versus
I
fundraising and yeah.
yeah, I fell into grants, honestly. So grants was
Okay.
just kind of what I tumbled into,
Uh-huh.
and had my first real like paying job
Mm-hmm.
related to
Okay.
them. So
Yeah.
it was like school, I was getting my master's, and I was working for an organization that was starting a grant funding program. And I happened to be taking a grant class as part of my master's. And so they were like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you're taking this class." And none of us really have any experience with it either. So why don't you help or tell us what you're doing in your class? And that's kind of how I started really engaging in the grant work. And for me, I think my personality, I actually liked the writing part and the behind the
Mm-hmm.
scenes part of it, that
Mm-hmm.
being a front facing development director doesn't necessarily employ, although now with grants it's changed a lot, so we're a lot more front facing as well
Mm-hmm.
than we used to be. But when I started off, I liked being the girl who was, on the computer word processor typing away
Mm-hmm.
feverishly at the proposal and then submitting it, and I was just kind of in my own space. And then it did change and the industry changed, and you have to change along with that. So
Mm-hmm.
everything
Mm-hmm.
kind of started to meld. And then I got asked to do some events and fundraisers and work on capital campaigns, and it kind of grew from there. So yeah, but grants are always my heart.
Oh, love it,
Yeah.
love it. So, from your perspective, this month's topic on building stronger nonprofit networks, what would you say is needed in order to build a strong network for your nonprofit?
So I would say the willingness to get out there and put yourself out there and your
Mm-hmm.
organization out there, and knowing a couple of things within your toolbox. It's really about knowing your mission and
Mm-hmm.
what you do, who you're doing it for, what is the community that you are serving, and why you're doing it. So, a strong elevator pitch, if you will, when you're connecting to other people in the community is, I think, really important to expanding your network of people and
Mm-hmm.
creating that first step of buy-in. Because I think when you're developing a network for a nonprofit, whether it's a fundraising network, whether it's a volunteer network, whether it's even a employer employee network, and you want to get really quality staff and management in your organization, the first thing they want to do is that they have to buy into your mission. They have to buy
Mm-hmm.
into what it is that you believe in as well. I think when there's a difference when you're talking to people who are connected to your mission versus those who are
Mm-hmm.
just doing it because it's a job or doing it because they have to. And like, there's nothing wrong with that either. We totally understand that. But when you're trying to connect and convince people to share a little bit of their resource, and whether that's a time resource or whether that's a financial resource or both, there's a connection that helps, I think, do it a little bit more, makes that opportunity stronger when you're trying to bridge a bunch of people together that you don't know. So really having that elevator pitch ready,
Mm-hmm.
and your why. Like, why are you doing this? Why do you need money? Why are you here? Why are you involving
Mm-hmm.
yourself and investing yourself in this project? And why should I in turn, invest in you? And however you're asking for that investment to be.
So, in hearing about the elevator pitch, what tips would you have for developing that elevator pitch? And the reason why I'm asking this because I've heard pitches or had discussions where that famous, hey, so what organization are you with? And then you hear a whole list of things, and at the end you're like, probably one word out of the entire pitch you picked up, oh, so you work with kids or whatever that might be. And a lot of it I think is because like being within your organization, people within it gets understand what you do, but then being able to make it very condensed so that others
Mhm.
can easily grab onto it. So what tips do you have for doing that in that elevator pitch form?
Absolutely. I think you're completely correct. A lot of elevator pitches can be too long and too meandering. So, the first and probably most important thing is be succinct and get to the
Hmm.
point. And you have to be really ruthless in cutting what you're trying to say. It should be, your pitch should be maybe two sentences max. It can
Hmm.
be a sentence or two. And it really should drive home to say, Organization X, we've been around for 50 years providing services to fill in the blank
Hmm.
community so that they can fill in the blank purpose. And then boom, that's it. From there, people should then ask you, oh, that's really interesting. Like, what kind of services? And then you can expand on that part. Or what's your
Hmm.
age range for the community? Is it just for kids? Is it for kids and adults? Is it for women? Is it for women, men, and children? Like, there's a variety of ways that then you can spider out talking about it,
Hmm.
but it should be really quick, like, how long have you been around? And I like the how long have you been around because it does one or two things. If you've been around for a long time, it engenders a sense of like, oh, they've been here for a while. They must
Hmm.
know what they're doing. They must have
Hmm.
some sort of relationship, or I haven't heard of them, but that doesn't mean that they're not doing really excellent things in the community. It's just, this is an interesting organization that's been around for a minute, and they must have a resource or a fresh resource that they are constantly providing to the community. And if you're new, then that also helps engender like, wow, I'm really intrigued about like why did you decide to do this? Or is there a gap, a community
Mhm.
gap that needs to be filled? And if you're a newer organization, really touch on that. We are brand new because we saw that this need was being unmet. Like that should be a part of that elevator
Mhm.
pitch to show like there is a hole there's a donut. I keep doing this because I'm used to times about the donut hole, but there was a
Uh-huh.
hole that in a met or a need, excuse me, that was being unmet and it had been unmet in the community. We are here to fill that, or we are
Mhm.
going to fill it in this way. And in order to expand here, that's where we need your help and in your involvement. So I like to use a little bit of that time, who you are, how long you've been around, what it
Mhm.
is that you do, and who you serve. That's it in a sentence or two. And that should be enough to quickly, if you're at an event, to quickly, if you're at a networking area, to quickly, if you're even having discussions like what we're having, to say this is what we're doing and why, and then intrigue people enough to ask more questions. You want to leave them wanting more so they can ask you about more specific details.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for that. So let's go back to so our top to donor networks. I know we're talking at broad, building stronger nonprofit networks. And you talked a little bit about how even within grants, that's looking a little bit different. From being able to be behind the scenes, and now there's that little touch point where you do have to kind of contact donors. Can we talk a little bit about what does that look like now, building relationships with potential donors in the grant arena, particularly?
Absolutely. So, right now, we're at a point in fundraising where, again, it's about connectivity. And when you're trying to, I always tell my students that grants are not the sundae, they're the cherry, they're the hot fudge, if you will.
Uh-huh.
It's not the ice cream or even the bowl
Mm-hmm.
per se.
Mm-hmm.
But now more than ever before, there's a lot of organizations that want to help by contributing grant funding, but they want to know who you
Mm-hmm.
are. And with the advent of online fundraising and online tools, the Zooms, the Teams, the go to meetings, it makes it easier for people to actually, and for the grant funder, now there's grant managers and there are people that
Mm-hmm.
are dedicated to, looking at all of these organizations that have or asking for grant dollars and trying to get to know them themselves. Because where it used to be, you may put out a RFP, a request for funding proposal, for people to adhere to, and you may get 10, 10, let me even five
Mm-hmm.
applicants. And you can kind of go through them and see really quickly, like, okay, this is a well written proposal. We like this mission. Now you may put out an RFP for the same thing and get 50, you may get 100. And it's difficult sometimes to just determine, and all of them look great. They're all well written, they're all
Mm-hmm.
detailed. And so you want to go with who you have an established relationship with sometimes, or who you've talked to, or who's invited you to an event or so. And how do you do that? But get on the phone and talk to people, or send an email to people, or start developing those relationships outside of, I'm just going to cold send my proposal. It's much easier for people on the back end. And again, this isn't for everyone. There are like, if you have government proposals where, because of rules and restrictions in the law, they're not going to come out and necessarily go to everything that you do prior to a proposal being set. But for foundations, private foundations, for corporate foundations, you may find yourself at an opportunity to give people a call just to introduce yourself and to say, hi, my name is Angela from XYZ Foundation, and we are planning on submitting a proposal, a grant funding proposal to your organization, but I wanted to talk through a little bit about who we are. And a lot of times when you're doing that, you can see and be assessed. And sorry if you hear any kids in the background as
Oh no,
well.
that's
It's
okay.
so I still have a teen that is home before school starts. What I try to do and tell people is that that is an opportunity for you to say like who it is that you are, and also ask for some clarifying questions on the RFP, and ask like,
Mhm,
our program that we are submitting is doing this. This
mhm.
looks like it aligns with your RFP or RFA, but I wanted to just double check prior to us submitting that, because I want to make sure that this aligns well and that we're not wasting your time. Many times, a funder appreciates that effort by just hearing about you and what you do, having you ask those questions. A lot of that is really about that world building and that relationship building. Or if you want to reach out to them and say, hey, we're submitting this for the first time, but I did want you to know that we have events here, 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 and here. We'd love to invite you to some, or we'd love to have you have a tour of our tutoring programs or of our healthcare facilities, or whatever it is that you can do within the context of your service provision. So give them a call, send an email. If they say, also, of course, pay attention to the application requirements. If they say we only take letters, then write them. If they say we only take emails, then email them. If they say we take anything or we prefer that you call, do whatever their preference is, but find a way to communicate it within the bounds of their preference, even prior to submitting a cold application, so that they can almost expect that your submission is on its way and they're really excited to see it.
That's good. And it's interesting because I feel like over this last couple months, when looking at grants and writing grants, like a lot of within the instructions, it says, this is what we fund. Anything else, call us or reach out to us. Or a few of the grants would say, hey, we're national, but we want you to meet with our local people first, like before you reach out, which is really interesting.
Mhm.
But it's bringing that connection piece, and through those conversations, even it helped us know, because of course as a nonprofit you have many different needs. It helped us know which one is the particular one that aligns well with that funder, so that when we're making that request, that we, instead of just kind of shooting in the dark or just trying to see if it sticks, we know this one really aligns based off of just having that simple conversation with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other tips you have for building a stronger nonprofit network?
I mean, I would say that do not be afraid to contact to this is more of a piggybacking tip off of what we just
Mhm.
talked about. But I do think that sometimes, especially those who are new to their organization or have recently built their nonprofit, or who are traditional grant writers, so they may be used to writing and not necessarily being as front facing as a major gifts officer or someone who is in the development director position, that don't be afraid to call. I love phone. Like, in my day-to-day life, I'm probably
Mhm.
not a phone talker, but professionally, the
Mhm.
phone for grant makers and grant seekers is like gold, honestly. And getting
Mhm.
an opportunity to pick up the phone and call someone and tell them about your mission and your vision and what you're doing and who you're serving is a wonderful opportunity. And it is 9 times out of 10 appreciated. And the one time that you might feel like it isn't, it's okay. They'll either put that on their, website to not call or contact, or if you get that vibe, then you just know, like, they don't prefer to be contacted. It also doesn't mean that you shouldn't submit your proposal, but now you
Mhm.
just know the communication structure. So I would definitely encourage everyone, especially if you're in grants, to take that opportunity to have a chat with potential funders and even current funders if you're not already doing it, and just check in with them. I also think in building your network, to start inviting people to see what it is that you do. And if you are in, and not every nonprofit is able to do this because of the structure of what you do, but if you're able to open yourself up to the public or to the community, or even have an individual or private tour of what it is that you do. Maybe it's even your facility. Maybe if it's a capital campaign, of course, the building plans or a model that you may have, or if you're looking to even restructure and you're looking to do repairs, then invite people to your existing building and say, hey, you can clearly see that we need repairs here, or this is where this money will go. If it's a van, have a rendering of what the van looks like, or a picture of it, and a pathway of like, where is it supposed to be taking people? Have like maps and video, or visual aids. Like, really use those tools to show and tell your story of why you need their help or their funding or anything like that. And as for other people, just like volunteers, those work as well. If you're wanting to expand your volunteer base, people want to know, well, what do you need me to do? Can I bring a friend? Can I bring a family member? Like, what is your structure? What am I going to be doing? And there's nothing better than to show people this in addition to telling them. And I don't want to say rather, because we have to do that as well, but show them and telling them, creating this interest and this impact. So I think more people, more nonprofits, if you're able to, and again, for those that are able to, try to find a way to get people to see what you do, or to have the tangible feel of what you do. It's a heightened sense, honestly, of the work that you're doing, that I think will help perpetuate that, and engender more service for what you want, and more networking. And then just go out and just go to as many places as possible.
Love it. So, what about those organizations? Because I just think about the organization that I started back in 2012. For a long time, like, we'll go on our mentorship trip. It was really hard to bring a donor out to come see what we do, especially because today we can be at this building, tomorrow we can be at that building. You know how in those early years, what are some
Yes.
creative ways that you can bring that experience to the donors when it may not necessarily be a traditional tour, or getting to know those that you work with? Like, what's some creative ways to do that?
Video, definitely.
Hmm.
Utilize video, utilize social media. And I will say, video is not, or social media is not exclusive of video. So if you're someone who's like, I don't do Facebook, I don't do Instagram, I would recommend that you do have a page. So I would say
Hmm.
that. But even more so than that, you can, as long as you have, a phone,
Yeah.
and a camera, then you have the possibility to make. There's 4K on mostly
Hmm.
everyone's phone that makes really beautiful, type of visual pictures. So I would walk around and just show, and again, with an ethical reason. So please make sure that you
Hmm.
do not video anyone that has not signed any releases or have consented to be on camera. So I would
Hmm.
definitely say
Hmm.
that. But once you have everyone's like a-okay, then you can take a handy phone, or if you do have fancier equipment, and just go
Hmm.
around and walk and say, and you can talk in the background, or you could do an overlay of voiceover, and
Hmm.
just say, this is our building. We're located at XXXXX. And I'm going to take you inside a little bit and show you our operations. And you can even have a couple people talk on camera and say hi, and ask them, what do you do? Well, hi, I'm Molly
Hmm.
Member, and I do XYZ. And this is, I'm the program manager of this, and I put out the reports for that. And I love what we
Hmm.
do, and all of that. You can just constantly put out short form, uh, you know, 2-minute things. You can put out a long form where it's like 20, 30 minutes. You could do an hour if you really
Mm-hmm.
felt like it. But I would say video is probably the quickest way and even the like most cost effective, provided that you have some video tool. And again, if you have a phone, then you
Mm-hmm.
have it. I have a video tool. No need to get out if you're like, I can't get, an expensive camera. You don't need it. A phone is fine. And you can
Mm-hmm.
go on there and market in that grassroots manner that's making someone feel like it's a touch point. You can shorten your, after you download it, there's a lot of inexpensive to free editing software that's out there, or you can just, if you're really good at doing it yourself on the phone, you can do it that way, and you can send it out. You can make it like a virtual newsletter to
Mm-hmm.
people, and you can send out that video to your existing base and ask them to share it or put it on social media. That's why I say you should probably have one, just so that you can disseminate
Mm-hmm.
information as needed. If you're ever writing a grant proposal, it can be linked as an attachment. If you ever
Mm-hmm.
have your annual report, it can be linked as an attachment. So there's a lot of ways, and sometimes you can QR code videos like that. So if you put
Mm-hmm.
them up on a website, or if you have a place where, files where you can put it, QR code it, put it on your business card, or add a QR code sticker and add it on
Mm-hmm.
to another card or another pamphlet or something to that effect, and say, for more, just click here, and it's right there. And those things, they take a little bit more time involvement, but not a lot of financial,
Mm-hmm.
resource dependency. So those are a couple of ways that you can do that without it being a significant amount of money. Some time, though.
Yeah. Love it, love it, love it. So how can those viewing stay in touch with you?
Yes. So you can email me at my UCF email, which is angela.white-jones@ucf.edu. I'm also on LinkedIn. That's probably, of all the socials, the best way to get in contact with me and see a little bit about projects that I'm doing. Admittedly, I'm not even the best at personally getting on, but LinkedIn is like the one that I will update the most out of all of that. And if you send me a message, I definitely get back to you. So I am a, inbox email type of person. So definitely, if you email me or contact me on LinkedIn, that's probably the fastest way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming back on with us. And we hope you'll join us for future sessions once
Yeah.
again. So we appreciate you coming on. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And we'll see you on our next Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. Bye, everyone.
Bye.